This is all you get. No cars, no houses, no names.
The service here is impeccable tonight.
Yes, especially the help. Move along now, gate boy.
Chief Obinna Adeyemi was worth $400 million. But on his 70th birthday, he did something nobody expected. He called his 3 sons into his office. He placed 3 envelopes on the table. Inside each envelope was $50. This is all you get, he said. No cars. No houses. No names. Survive for 6 months like this, or lose everything. His 2 older sons laughed. They thought it was a joke. But his youngest son, Kelechi, picked up his envelope and said nothing. 3 months later, that same son was sleeping on a cold floor, working as a cleaner in a hotel his own family used to own shares in. He was mocked. He was insulted. He was called gate boy by rich women who didn't know his real name. And one of those women would later fall in love with him without knowing who he was. This is the story of how one poor cleaner broke a woman's loneliness, and how one old man's cruel test uncovered the truth about his own children. Stay with me. Because what happens at the wedding hall in this story, nobody in that family will ever forget. Lagos was a city that never let you forget who had money and who didn't. Chief Adeyemi built his empire from nothing. Hotels. Shipping. Real estate. He was a hard man, but a fair one. And as he grew old, he grew afraid of one thing only. He was afraid his sons had forgotten how to survive. His first son, Chucks, spent money like it grew on trees. His second son, Emeka, cared only about status, about being seen at the right parties with the right people. But his last son, Kelechi, was quiet. He worked in the company office without complaint, never asked for more than he was given, and never spoke about himself. Chief Adeyemi called them all in on his birthday. I built this company with 2 empty hands, he told them. I want to know, if I stripped everything from you today, would you survive? Or would you break? His sons laughed, because rich men often say dramatic things and never follow through. But Chief Adeyemi followed through. He froze all 3 of his sons' accounts. He took their cars. He took their phones. He gave each of them $50, a bag of old clothes, and one instruction. Go and live like the people you look down on. In 6 months, come back to me. Whoever proves he can survive with dignity, will run my company. Chucks refused. He went to stay with a girlfriend instead, quietly using her money, thinking his father would never find out. Emeka begged his mother for secret money behind his father's back. But Kelechi did something none of them expected. He left the family house with only his bag, and he disappeared into the city. He didn't tell anyone where he was going. Not even his mother. He simply believed his father was testing something deeper than money. He wanted to understand it. He wanted to earn it, not fake it. He found a small hotel on the edge of the city. Not one of his father's hotels. A modest one, called Grace Palace Hotel, owned by a woman trying to keep her business alive. He asked for a job. Any job. They gave him the lowest one there was. Gate boy. Cleaner. The man who opens car doors for guests who will never remember his face. He accepted it without complaint. He didn't know that this small, tired hotel would become the place where his whole life changed. Her name was Amara. She was 26 years old, and everyone in her family treated her like an afterthought. Her younger sister, Chioma, was the family's pride. Chioma was engaged to a wealthy businessman's son. Chioma wore designer clothes. Chioma was praised at every family gathering. Amara worked as a receptionist at Grace Palace Hotel, the same hotel where Kelechi now worked as a cleaner. She sent almost her entire salary home to help pay her father's hospital bills, and in return, she was mocked for still being single at 26 and wasting her life in a small hotel job. Her mother's favorite line, repeated at every family dinner, was simple and cruel. Chioma will marry into money. Amara will marry whoever will still have her. Amara never argued back. She simply lowered her head and kept working, kept paying the bills nobody else wanted to pay, kept smiling through humiliation that would have broken most people. She met Kelechi on his very first day at the hotel. He was struggling to fold the hotel's old uniform correctly, his hands shaking slightly, clearly a man who had never done manual work before in his life. Amara noticed. She didn't laugh at him like the other staff did. "You're new," she said gently. "Here, fold it like this." Kelechi looked up at her, surprised that someone would offer kindness instead of mockery. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Most people just laugh." "I know how that feels," Amara said. "So I don't do it to others." That was the first spark between them. Not romance yet. Just two tired souls recognizing each other's pain. Word spread fast that the new gateboy was strange. He spoke too properly. He carried himself too straight, even in a torn uniform. The hotel's spoiled young manager, Tund, made it his mission to humiliate him publicly at every chance. "Oga, you dress like this and you still act like a big man," Tund sneered one afternoon, in front of arriving hotel guests. "Bow your head when guests arrive. Or do you think you're better than this job?" Kelechi lowered his head silently. Inside, something in him burned. He had run boardroom meetings. He had negotiated million-dollar shipping contracts. And now he was being told to bow for tourists who wouldn't remember his face by morning. But he said nothing. Amara watched this from the reception desk, her chest tightening in quiet anger on his behalf. That evening, she found him sitting alone behind the staff quarters, staring at nothing. "Why didn't you defend yourself?" she asked. "Because some battles aren't worth losing your dignity over," Kelechi said. "I'd rather bend my head than break my peace." Amara sat beside him. "You know," she said softly, "you're the first person here who's ever said something like that to me. Everyone else just complains or fights back and makes things worse." "I've learned patience the hard way," Kelechi said, and left it there. He never told her why. Their friendship grew slowly, the way real trust does, not with grand gestures, but with small ones. Kelechi walked Amara home after her late shifts, even though it meant walking an extra hour back to his own tiny room. He never asked for anything in return. Amara began saving a little food from the staff kitchen for him, because she noticed he sometimes skipped meals to save what little money he had. One evening, sitting outside her small rented room, Kelechi asked her something that had been on his mind. "Why do you send all your money home, when your family doesn't even appreciate it?" Amara was quiet for a moment. "Because someone has to," she said. "My father is sick. My mother only sees value in status, not sacrifice. But if I stop helping, who will? Chioma won't. She's too busy being celebrated." "Doesn't it hurt you?" Kelechi asked. "Being invisible in your own family?" Amara's eyes filled slightly, but she blinked it back. "Every single day," she admitted. "But I stopped waiting for them to see me. I just try to be a good person anyway." Kelechi looked at her for a long moment. "You're not invisible," he said quietly. "I see you." It was a simple sentence. But for Amara, who had spent her whole life being overlooked, it landed like an earthquake in her chest. That was the night she began to fall for him, not because he was rich, because she believed he was poor. She fell for him because he was kind when he had every excuse not to be. News reached Amara's family that she was getting close to a hotel cleaner. Her mother arrived at the hotel unannounced, dragging Chioma along, both dressed in expensive fabric that made the modest hotel lobby look even smaller. "Is this true?" her mother demanded loudly, in front of hotel guests and staff. You are wasting your time with a cleaner? A gate boy? Do you want to finish embarrassing this family? Mother, please, Amara whispered, mortified. Not here. Everywhere, her mother snapped. I will say it everywhere. Your sister is marrying into one of the richest families in Lagos, and you want to bring home a boy who opens car doors for a living? Chioma smirked from behind their mother, clearly enjoying the show. Some people just don't know their place, Chioma said sweetly, loud enough for Kelechi, who had just walked in, to hear clearly. Kelechi froze near the entrance, holding a tray of glasses, saying nothing. Amara's mother turned to him with disgust. You. Gate boy. Stay away from my daughter. She was born into a better life than this. The lobby went silent. Every staff member pretended not to watch, but everyone was watching. Kelechi set the tray down gently. I understand, Ma, he said calmly. I only ever wanted her peace. Not her shame. He walked away without another word. That night, Amara cried for the first time in front of him. I'm sorry, she said. I'm so sorry for how they treated you. You have nothing to apologize for, Kelechi said. You didn't choose your family's cruelty. Don't carry guilt for something you didn't do. Why are you always so calm? Amara asked, almost frustrated. Don't you ever want to fight back? Kelechi looked at her, something unreadable passing behind his eyes. One day, he said quietly, I might not have to. Amara didn't understand what he meant. Not yet. Small, strange things began happening around Kelechi that nobody could explain. One afternoon, a delivery driver dropping off supplies froze when he saw Kelechi sweeping the entrance. Sir? Is that, no, it can't be, the driver muttered, before quickly looking away and driving off confused. Another day, a well-dressed businessman stepped out of a car at the hotel, caught sight of Kelechi, and immediately straightened his tie nervously. Good afternoon, sir, the businessman said carefully, before catching himself and rushing inside, avoiding eye contact. Kelechi always brushed these moments off quickly. Mistaken identity, he'd say. I have one of those common faces. But Amara began to notice a pattern. Once, while helping fold his laundry, she found a small, expensive watch hidden at the bottom of his bag, the kind of watch that cost more than a year of her hotel salary. When she asked about it, he simply said it belonged to his late father, and quickly changed the subject. Another time, hotel security guards, usually harsh with lower staff, greeted Kelechi with unusual respect, almost as if they were following an order they didn't fully understand themselves. Why do they treat you differently? Amara asked one night. I used to work security jobs before this, Kelechi lied smoothly. Guards recognize each other. Amara believed him, because she trusted him. But deep inside her, a small question had already been planted. Who is this man really? Despite everything, there were quiet, golden moments between them. They shared meals of roasted corn by the roadside. They talked about small dreams, Amara's wish to open her own little bakery someday, Kelechi's quiet promise that he would help her build it, somehow, someday. I don't need riches, Amara told him one evening, watching the sunset from the hotel rooftop where they weren't technically allowed to be. I just want someone who stays. Someone who doesn't see me as less. Kelechi took her hand gently. I will never see you as less, he said. Not now. Not ever. No matter what you find out about me. Amara laughed softly, not understanding the weight behind his words. What's there to find out? You're just a cleaner, she teased gently. Kelechi smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. Just wait, he said quietly. Everything will make sense soon. 6 months had passed since Chief Adeyemi's cruel test began. He summoned all 3 sons back, but not privately. He summoned them to a massive gathering at Grace Palace Hotel itself, the very hotel where Kelechi had been working, in front of hundreds of guests, business partners, and family members, including Amara's family, who had been invited as part of an unrelated business deal between Chief Adeyemi's company and Chioma's fiancé's family. Chucks arrived in a suit he had secretly bought with his girlfriend's money, boasting loudly about surviving on the streets. Emeka arrived similarly dressed up, lying confidently about hardships he never actually faced. Then Chief Adeyemi asked one final question in front of everyone. "Where is my youngest son, Kelechi?" Silence fell over the hall. From near the back entrance, where the hotel staff usually stood, Kelechi stepped forward, still in his cleaner's uniform, hotel name tag on his chest. Gasps spread through the crowd. Amara's mother turned pale. Chioma's smug smile disappeared instantly. That's the gate boy," someone whispered loudly. Chief Adeyemi rose slowly from his seat, walked across the hall, and stood before his youngest son. 6 months ago, Chief Adeyemi announced, his voice carrying through the silent hall, "I gave my 3 sons $50 each, and told them to survive without my name, without my money, without my protection." He turned to Chucks and Emeka. "You two secretly used shortcuts. You lied to me. You lied to yourselves." Then he turned to Kelechi, placing a hand on his shoulder. "But this son worked as a cleaner. Slept on a cold floor. Was insulted publicly. And never once used my name to escape it." The entire hall stared at Kelechi in stunned silence. "You mocked him," Chief Adeyemi said, turning directly toward Amara's mother and Chioma, whose faces had gone white with horror. "You called him a gate boy unworthy of your daughter. You will now stand in the hotel that belongs to my company's newest shareholder." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "My son Kelechi does not simply survive," Chief Adeyemi announced. "As of today, he inherits controlling shares of this entire hotel chain, and will become the next CEO of Adeyemi Holdings." The room erupted into stunned whispers. Amara stood frozen near the back, tears streaming down her face, not tears of joy, but tears of shock, confusion, and something that felt dangerously close to betrayal. Chioma rushed forward immediately, her earlier cruelty forgotten, suddenly all smiles. "Kelechi. I didn't know it was you. We should talk, properly, as family." "You called him a gate boy," Amara's mother interrupted her own daughter, her voice trembling as she tried desperately to recover face. "My daughter always liked you, Kelechi. Please, forgive our earlier words, we didn't know." Kelechi raised a hand gently, silencing them both without raising his voice. "You didn't know," he repeated calmly. "That's exactly the problem. You judged people based on what you could see, not who they actually were." He turned, searching the crowd until his eyes found Amara standing frozen near the back entrance. "The only person who never asked me who I was," Kelechi said, his voice softening, "is standing right there. She fed me when I had nothing. She defended me when everyone else laughed. She loved a poor gate boy, not knowing he could ever become anything more." He walked toward Amara, ignoring the stunned crowd around him. "You lied to me," Amara whispered, her voice breaking, tears falling freely now. "All those months, you let me believe." "I never lied about how I felt," Kelechi said gently. "I only hid what I had, not who I am. There's a difference." "You could have told me," Amara said, hurt evident in every word. "I would have loved you either way." "I know," Kelechi said softly. "That's exactly why I had to be sure first. I needed to know someone could love me, before they knew I had anything to offer." Amara didn't immediately soften. The betrayal, however gently intended, still stung deeply. She stepped back from him that night, needing time and space to process everything, the shock, the hidden months, the fact that the man she had comforted through humiliation had been capable of ending it at any moment and chose not to. For 2 weeks, she avoided him, still working her regular shifts, now under noticeably different circumstances, as hotel staff treated her with sudden new respect once they learned who she'd been close to. Kelechi didn't chase her aggressively. He respected her need for space, sending only occasional gentle messages. "Take the time you need. I'll wait. I've learned patience the hard way, remember?" Eventually, Amara came to him, finding him exactly where they'd first truly connected, the hotel rooftop. I was angry, she admitted, standing beside him as the city lights spread below them. Not because you're rich. Because I felt foolish, like maybe I was just part of some test. You were never a test, Kelechi said firmly, turning to face her fully. You were the answer. My father wanted to know if I could survive without my name. But somewhere along the way, I learned something more important. I learned what it felt like to be loved simply for being myself, nothing more. Amara's eyes filled again, but this time, with something warmer. I sent money home every month, she said quietly, hoping someone would finally see my worth. And it wasn't my family who saw it first. It was a cleaner with a secret. You were never invisible, Kelechi reminded her, echoing his words from months earlier. I saw you when you had nothing to offer either. That's what made it real. Weeks later, Amara's mother requested a private meeting, arriving humbled, without her usual arrogance. I was wrong, she admitted quietly to Amara, tears in her own eyes for the first time in years. I judged you your whole life for not being like your sister. But you were the one who paid the bills. You were the one who never asked for praise. I was blind. Chioma, too, eventually apologized, though it took longer, her pride harder to break. I always envied you, Chioma admitted one evening. You never needed anyone's approval to keep being good. I needed everyone's approval just to feel okay about myself. Amara, having learned patience from Kelechi himself, chose forgiveness over resentment. Family isn't about who gets celebrated the loudest, she told them gently. It's about who shows up quietly, every single time. I forgive you. But I won't forget what it taught me about my own worth. Months later, Grace Palace Hotel hosted a wedding, not a forced, humiliating arrangement, but one built entirely on choice and genuine love. Amara wore a simple, elegant dress, nothing extravagant, exactly as she wanted it. Kelechi stood waiting, no longer in a cleaner's uniform, but dressed simply nonetheless, having insisted on keeping the wedding modest despite his new position. Chief Adeyemi, watching his youngest son from the front row, finally understood the true result of his difficult test. I wanted to know if my sons could survive without money, he said quietly to his wife. But Kelechi taught me something greater. He showed me what a man becomes when he survives with his heart intact. As Amara walked down the aisle, past family members who once mocked her, past a sister who once smirked at her pain, she looked only at Kelechi, the man who once opened car doors for strangers, and who had, without meaning to, opened her heart instead. I loved you when you had nothing, Amara whispered as they held hands before the crowd. I will love you now that you have everything, for exactly the same reason. And I will spend the rest of my life, Kelechi answered softly, making sure you never feel invisible again. Money can disappear overnight. But the way someone treats you when you have nothing, that, you never forget.